God, the effects are so funny.
9 hours and 23.
Oh, it's giving me chills. Hello. This video is brought to you by Criminally Underrated, the podcast attempting to put together a playlist of the most criminally underrated songs of all time. Join me and a variety of special guests as we dissect lesser known gems from your fave artists and give them the attention they truly deserve. So far, we've covered underrated songs from Lana, Taylor, Jessie J, Beyonce, Aurora, Queen, Lady Gaga, and so many more. You can listen on all streaming services now or watch the extended video version over on Patreon.
Call me a criminal.
Hello, welcome to this video. My name's Dan, aka Lucen. I am a singer-songwriter, and today I'm going to be discovering David Bowie. Let's go. Right, okay. I mean, it's been a long time since I've done a Let's Discover style video where I take an artist, I pick a bunch of songs and I go through like the years. And I thought David Bowie would be like ripe for this because although like as a British person, it is actually impossible to avoid David Bowie. You know, it's just a part of our culture at the end of the day. I feel like as a music listener, I've never truly actually listened to anything beyond the hits, you know, and actually I've never actually sat down and listened to them with headphones, analysed them, and actually really sat down to truly understand who David Bowie is as an artist. And so I thought actually he would be a great artist to do for this style of discovery video, because although there are elements of him that I'm familiar with, I don't really know, you know. And I've been wanting to do this for ages because like I feel like it's a gap in my knowledge. Whenever everyone talks about Bowie, I'm like, and I'm like, I know Let's Dance and I know Fashion and I know Live on Mars, but yeah. So I've chosen 8 different songs. Let me go through them. I've got Space Oddity, Moonage Daydream, Ziggy Stardust, Live on Mars, Ashes to Ashes, Modern Love, Magic Dance, and Lazarus. So I've picked songs from across his entire life. What I'm going to do is actually watch the music videos because I don't think I've actually seen any of the music videos. And I know that like he's an iconic kind of visual artist. You know, I think I was reading that Space Oddity is like the first like music video like kind of as we know it, you know, in this form that isn't just like somebody just singing on a stage or whatever. But yes, if you're new to the channel, then welcome. I'm a singer-songwriter, so like when it comes to reactions, my perspective is really trying to like get into the artistry and dig into the lyrics and the production, all that kind of stuff. So if you like that kind of thing, make sure to subscribe and make sure to check out all my videos. I've done discovery videos actually on Joni Mitchell and Björk and Kate Bush. So yeah, so if you want to check those out, I'll link them for you. Also, if you want to check out my music, I'll leave the links for you as well. And I also have a podcast too where I talk about underrated music from popular artists. Yes, make sure to check out all of those things with the link in the description. Oh yeah, I've got his album Black Star on the wall because it is my boyfriend's record and he was like, oh, you should put it on the wall. So yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, I've had my boyfriend telling me to listen to David Bowie. I've had my best friend Claire telling me to listen to David Bowie. I've had my mum telling me to listen to David Bowie. I've had Lady Gaga telling me to listen to David Bowie. I've got a Gaga top on for the vibes. Yeah. So here I am actually finally doing it. I threw my back out last week because I am officially old. I was going to film it last week, but I was in a lot of pain. But it's getting there now. It's been a week, let me tell you that. Jesus. Right. But here we are. And what better way to make it feel better than to discover David Bowie? Okay, right. So this is the first one. This is the music video for Space Oddity. Let's go. Wait, there's something wrong. No, there's not. I was just like, it's really quiet and only on the right, but that is the choice. Yes, I have had this one. Such a quiet opening. Playing with the panning, as was the tone. But the countdown is kind of a bit stressful. So it's about an astronaut, right? Oh, okay. The dynamics are amazing. It's got that image so like from the very beginning. It's so iconic, isn't it? I'm stepping through the door. What inspired him to write this song? Ooh, okay. Something's going wrong. It's like someone's trying to escape. Oh, I love all the texture. I've never heard that before. I always forget about this section. This is the thing, is that I don't really listen to his songs, like sit down and listen to them. But they're such kind of beautiful, rich, like evocative, like... And when you think about like this is the 70s and his production is like so lush and rich and interesting and creative, this is like all done with tape, you know? I love that some of the shots are just of like the mixing desk and stuff. There's something going wrong, right? It's like it's in space and someone's gone wrong and they're dying or something. I so like, it kind of evokes that kind of space kind of thing, and the chords and everything are so lovely. It's so interesting, this little break, like. There's such a beauty in the chords that he's chosen, and kind of this kind of cinematic quality. Everything's going wrong, and it's like the tension is like really palpable. It's so cool. You think about the production there in 2024, you could probably do something that was kind of more technically weird sounding or whatever, but to kind of have the foresight to like commit these things to tape, you know, and be able to craft that into a song when you can't just like spend 100 hours testing the perfect sound, you know, it's like really impressive that he can create something so beautifully like strange, alien sounding with all this like interesting tension and stuff with the limitations of the technology, you know, especially when you actually think about the limitations of the technology in terms of like computers, and you think of synths. The 70s were very early days of synths, so I can imagine that David Bowie would have been one of the artists who would have had access to that. But I feel like you could still trace back all the instruments to actual instruments. You know, it sounded like strings, it sounded like acoustic guitar, you know, but like to create this world of sound without all the kind of modern trappings of production is so amazing. And to, have the vision to be able to be confident enough to commit that to tape is like kind of next level, right? It's that kind of visionary thing where you can actually picture exactly how the song sounds without actually having it there in front of you. Yeah. Anyway, I've never actually sat down and listened to that song. Obviously, I know the like opening line and I know the main melody and stuff, but like I can't say like I've really actually properly sat down. And I love that middle section where it kind of breaks down into the acoustic guitar, almost kind of brings it back down to earth. And then the introduction of those like almost like distorted, compressed strings that kind of like, especially with those lovely chords that are there, like, and borrowed chords and stuff, and give it this kind of cinematic quality. And then right at the end, we'll kind of go into like this dissonant stuff, which is almost like taken off into space. It really tells me that he has like thought about the theme of the song as in someone being in space, and has really tried to translate that into the way the song sounds. And it does that in such a kind of brilliantly simple, succinct way, you know, because there's probably only like 4 tracks going on in that song at the same time, right? But yeah, it's very, very like well crafted, isn't it? You know? Yeah. And the music video, you can tell it's early music video because it's very much like vibes. It's like the lighting, the guitar, like it's obviously the performance aspect of it is still very much within people's minds at this point, whereas like it gets a lot looser later on. But at this point, it's like they've come from standing on a stage and performing the song and filming it. So this being a step forward from that makes sense, because it's like he is performing in the middle, but then you have all these strange shots of like electronic waveforms and stuff, which kind of give the vibe of like being within a control center in Houston. And then all the kind of like strange like first person perspective stuff where it's like running through all these cables and stuff, almost like someone's on a spaceship panicking. You know, that giving me that feeling. It's like creating the vibe of the story rather than telling a linear story. Do you know what I mean? Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. And then the countdown is really good because it builds up a lot of tension and kind of is so like really spells out the story right from the beginning. And the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door. I'm floating in a most peculiar way, and the stars look very different today. So quite literally, there's people on the ground control talking to Major Tom, who is in space. He's about to step off and have this incredibly unique experience from a totally different perspective. I like the idea that he is seeing the stars from a different angle. It's almost like I'm seeing the world and I'm seeing everything from a different perspective. He's very keen to like say, like, the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Like, there's a fame here. And maybe there's a sense of like the things that we care about as humans, like, oh, what shirt you're wearing, about fame, like the trappings of human, mean nothing when you're faced with the glory of outer space. Makes us feel very small. That's the comparison between people on the ground and people in the space, you know. That's kind of what I'm getting from it. I'm sitting in a tin can far above the world. Planet Earth is blue and there's nothing I can do. Yeah, there's like giving into the grandness of the universe. Though I'm past 100,000 miles, I'm feeling very still. I think my spaceship knows which way to go. Tell my wife I love her very much. She knows. Ground control to Major Tom. Your circuit said there's something wrong. Can you hear me, Major Tom? So he dies. He dies. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, so that's where the anxiety in the music video really translates to the story, because Major Tom is like, they lose connection with him and something's going wrong and he is potentially dead. It's a very simple song. It's very straightforward. I actually really love, like, the storytelling is almost, it's not like spelled out. It's like just the thoughts of, and the speech of like these two different people, and then you're left to kind of fill in the rest of the storyline, because it's simple enough that you can fill in the gaps yourself, you know. But David is like Dave, my mate Dave, is very specific as to which parts are brought out. Like, tell my wife I love her, you know, like, even faced with the hugeness of looking at the planet and feeling insignificant and small, like that you're helpless, you can't do anything about it, he still thinks about his wife, still thinks about love, these trivial human things that are actually very important. So there really is a theme of, like, as a human feeling so small, it almost like reminds you of what's important to you, and actually puts everything in perspective. That's what it is for me. It's this idea of, like, putting things in perspective. Really cool. Yeah, I kind of, like, never had really paused to think about what this song is actually about, and I love the kind of loosely narrative nature of it. Really cool. Oh, by the way, also, with Space Oddity, before we move on, I was reading online that apparently that was, like, one of the earliest editions of, like, a music video in that sense. And so I wanted to do Space Oddity at the beginning and Lazarus at the end to really kind of cap off the whole thing. Like, we've got the beginning and we've got the end, which I know a little bit about what the themes of Lazarus are about, and I know the context in which it was released. So I thought it was quite kind of poetic to kind of spell out his journey with the beginning and the end. So next is the song Moonage Daydream. This was actually suggested by Fernstone. Hello. When I put out a call for songs to do on this video, I got about 30 or 40 different songs, like so many. But actually Fern and a couple of others actually requested this one. It doesn't have a music video or anything. I've never heard anything about it, so I'm completely fresh. So yes, this is Moonage Daydream. I think it was 71, so this is even earlier than Space Oddity. But so we're going really early Bowie. Let's do it.
I'm an alligator.
Ooh. Rocky. Cool. I really enjoy, like, the way it kind of comes in, like, poof, almost like comes in with, like, the chorus in a way. I love the brightness in those piano chords. It's just so refreshing and lifts you up. It's so lovely. Cool. So interesting. It doesn't feel like it has, like, a solid chorus verse structure at all. It's quite loose. Put your ray gun to my head. More space age kind of storytelling. Ooh, I was not expecting. It's like a recorder? That's what it sounds like. And then we've got some brass. So fun. That really gives me kind of, like, London energy, you know. Do you know what I mean? There's something about that sound. God, there's just something about the chords. It's just so beautiful. I couldn't tell you what it's about yet. Freak out in a Moonage Daydream. I love the way he plays with like dryness and full production. He did it on the previous song as well. Cool. Oh, I'm obsessed with that guitar solo. That's beautiful. Wow. And what a cool way to do a guitar solo. Take something that's quite recognisable within rock music, but then have these kind of crazy delays on it, so it almost has this like outer space kind of alien feel. God, I love the chords. It reminds me of, it's a Hotel California. Maybe it's the same chord structure or similar chord structure. Love it. Oh, it's so stunning. What a beautiful, big, open-ended end section. Just gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Really loved that. Just like, there's just something about the mixture between the kind of rocky elements and that piano that almost kind of sounds a little bit Elton John, doesn't it? Like the way that like that piano just rises out of the kind of heavy rock sound. It's just so satisfying to me. And I just, and that combined with the chord structure, it just feels very moving in the world that it's creating within those sounds. Like, yeah, it's really gorgeous. Like totally the kind of thing I just absolutely love to hear within kind of composition. But then I think the other thing I kind of noticed about that song is that it feels as if there's like such a brilliant mixture between the alien and the down-to-earth. It almost feels like he really makes sure there are elements that people can latch onto that are recognisable. For instance, the kind of rock side of it, like the rock guitars and the guitar solo. But then he morphs his voice in interesting ways. Like there's lots of interesting delays and panning effects and stuff. Obviously, this is like the early days of stereo. And so panning is like a big thing at this point. It was like, oh, I'm going to stick my vocal in this ear and then the vocal in this ear, and then it's going to be, ooh. And specifically when you do these things to a voice, it makes it feel alien because that is the most human thing in the track. And if you are making the most human thing in the track slightly less human, it does really have quite a strong, powerful kind of effect. Gave it that kind of alien energy. Just really great. Just a great song. Couldn't tell you what it's about, but I suppose that is kind of the thing with Bowie, is that his lyrics really beg to be studied. You know, I'm an alligator. I'm a mama papa coming for you. I'm the space invader. Okay, so this is going to be pre-Space Invaders. Interesting. Maybe that's why Space Invaders is called Space Invaders. Oh my God. I'll be rock and rolling bitch for you. Oh, great. Keep your mouth shut. You're squawking like a pink monkey bird, and I'm busting up my brains for the words. Keep your electric eye on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space face close to mine, love. Freak out in a Moonage Daydream. There's like a psychedelic energy, right? The vibe of the lyrics, right? I like this punky, like kind of rebellious kind of attitude. Like it's kind of like shove it all in my face. Like I don't give a shit. Like point a gun to my head and tell me I'm a bitch. It's like really like, it's really kind of got that kind of that rebellious energy to it. Yeah, there's a kind of sexy feeling to it too. Like there's a closeness. Don't fake it, baby. Lay the real thing on me. At the church of man, love is such a holy place to be. Make me baby. Make me know you really care. Make me jump into the air. Yeah, there's a real sexual thing to this. And then it's like freak out, far out, in, out. Yeah, there's a sense of like maybe the sex, the intimacy between these two people, taking him into space. The power of the kind of sexual desire and everything is like really, yeah, like ferocious and like lifts him up into space. That's like really what it's kind of giving me, I guess. But again, quite a simple lyric, well, not a simple lyric, but not overwritten, not super complicated lyrics. Like the lyrics are fairly straightforward and then repeated. Like there's not like a third, fourth, fifth verse telling stories. It's like, I'm going to set it up and I'm going to let your imagination run wild within the context of what I've given you. I feel like that seems to be the connective tissue. It allows you as a listener to really kind of fill in some of that stuff with your own imagination, which is very interesting. Cool. Okay, let's go on to the next one. This is Ziggy Stardust, which I don't think I've ever actually heard. You know, it's one of those songs where like you think you probably should have heard it, but I think this is my first time hearing Ziggy Stardust. So let's go. Rocky, and this is from the album. It's like a concept album, right? I have to do the whole album reaction at some point. Let me know if you want me to do the full album.
Ziggy played guitar The spiders from Mars.
And spiders from Mars.
Then we were Ziggy's band. Like some cat from Japan.
Like a cat from Japan.
Well hung in snow white tan. So where were
Oh, hello. Let's talk about creative panning. Yeah, can confirm, never heard this before.
so we mixed about his
I love his vocal delivery as well. It's so different, isn't it? You know, completely unique.
Ziggy played for time.
So he's almost like telling the story of this rock star from the perspective of like maybe a roadie.
God
It's kind of what it's giving. Did he say with a God-given ass?
guitar.
Yeah.
Making love with his ego.
Making love with his ego. The fame is like feeding into his own ego. Like there's a real kind of like visceral thing there.
Guitar.
It's almost like a memorial of a star who maybe died or something. Do you know what I mean? Really enjoyed that. That one really felt a bit more like narratively driven. It was like, yeah, it really gave me a perspective compared to the previous one, which was more like speaking in like abstract kind of vibey kind of phrases. This one really was like talking about a person and talking about their struggle with ego. But at the end of the day, boy, could he really play the guitar. You know, it's almost like a memorial of this man, maybe. I don't know. I'll look into the lyrics in a sec. But yeah, really love the storytelling nature of that. I also love that, like, I think in terms of my expectation of David Bowie, like from what I've seen and heard in the past, I always think of him as this very aloof, very abstract, very arty, kind of untouchable kind of presence. And what I'm actually hearing in the songs, there's actually so much of a quality of like it feeling quite down to earth, which is quite poetic. There's always like a sense of acoustic guitar or electric guitar or something that really makes it feel quite familiar. There's always a connection to a human emotion that makes it feel quite familiar. It doesn't matter what he does with the production and the style and stuff and his image. There's something that brings it back down to earth, whether it's a human feeling or whether it's this like certain sounds in the song bringing it back down to earth after all the craziness, you know? Yeah, which was unexpected because I thought it was all going to be quite aloof. Oh yeah, Ziggy played guitar, jamming good with Weird and Gilly. Assume there were other people in the band. And the Spiders from Mars. Name of the band? I guess, right? He played it left hand, but made it too far, became the special man, then we were Ziggy's band. So maybe he left the band and then went solo maybe. Ziggy really sang screwed up eyes and screwed down hairdo. Love it. Such an image as well, like the screwed up eyes, like the screwed down hairdo almost like give me like a Prince kind of hairdo, like really like very visceral kind of storytelling in one line. They came on so loaded, man, well hung and snow white tan. There's a real sense of this guy having such a kind of power, you know, magnetism. You know, they all just like would hang on every single word he said, you know. So where were the spiders while the fly tried to break our bones? Wow. With just the beer light to guide us, so we bitched about his fans. Should we crush his sweet hands? So maybe it's actually not between him and the roadies, but between him and the band members and how much they feel like their lead singer has really gone off and like feel a bit betrayed by his like aloofness and by the fact that the fans are all crazy about him and not about them. They've been a bit forgotten, you know. It's Taylor's all the time, you know, band. Yeah, it's the Beyonce and Michelle situation, isn't it? You know, like where there's always a star and then there's the people who get a bit forgotten and like the kind of dynamics between that. He's like painting a picture of that story within this song. He was the Nas with a God-given ass. I just love that so much. He took it all too far, but boy, could he play guitar. Making love with his ego, Ziggy sucked up in his mind. Like a leper messiah when the kids had killed the man, I had to break up the band. Oh, wow. So it's like the fans, the attention, the fame got to him until he was making love with his own ego. When you're that big, nobody will say boo to a goose. Everyone would just say, yes, 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 you're perfect, you're amazing. And that can only lead to like somebody, getting wrapped up within their own ego and it destroying them as a person, you know. It's like a cautionary tale of what happens to people like this, you know, and so they break up the band, you know. It's like So brilliant. Oh my God, what a story within a song. Like, it tells you so much and has so much depth within this character. And I love that the character of Ziggy Stardust is being viewed by the band member in this song, because it kind of like, you get more of a sense of the decline of this rock star that wouldn't necessarily be obvious if it were told by Ziggy himself. You know, and actually you also get the personality and the angle of this person's own kind of jaded opinion on the situation, you know, the sense of maybe he feels a bit betrayed, or he feels a bit like shafted for this golden lead singer, you know. There's just so much you can take out of it. It's so genius. Like, I loved that. Like, the lyrics in that one are really like the best so far for me. Though I think Moonage Daydream as a song, I feel like I enjoyed the most so far in terms of the sound. But yes, let's go to the next one. What have I got next? Next we have Life on Mars, the music video. Now this is one I probably know the best out of all the songs we've heard so far. We actually sang this one in choir. So I actually know I know this one quite well, but I've never seen the music video, so I thought it would be a good one to add into this reaction. So let's go.
It's a god-awful small affair
For the girl with the mousy hair. Oh my God, his contacts are really weird. One dilated and one not. They've got to be contact lenses, right? Or is that true eyes? I don't know. It's really weird. What an iconic image. Like, orange mullet, powder blue suit, powder blue eyeshadow. God, the chords in this song are fucking brilliant, aren't they? That move into the chorus is just so uplifting. It's almost like a musical, you know? Take a look at the love. Is there life on Mars? It's just so fascinating. The chord structure of this song particularly, like, it's just endlessly interesting and unique. And you can listen to it a million times and it still feels uplifting and powerful and unique.
Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow.
Yeah, I've never really understood these lyrics.
Cause Lennon's on sale again. My Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads.
From Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads. God, that bit. It literally sounds like a movie. It's so good. Yeah, it'd be really interesting to actually look at these lyrics as an adult, because like when I was in choir, it was like when I was a teenager, and I just remember thinking, these are weird, doesn't make any sense. But I feel like I'm already piecing together like maybe some anti-capitalism stuff, you know, the referencing Mickey Mouse, the like Lennon being on sale, you know, these kinds of things. This section is really cinematic. That music video is pretty much all about the image, isn't it? Like, all about the power of his magnetism as a star, you know? Wow, the ending of that is so interesting. It almost sounds like it's part of a concept kind of piece where it could kind of lead on somewhere else. If there are any specific albums that I should listen to, I don't know which ones these are all from, to be honest. But yes, let me know which specific albums are like album projects that I really should kind of dig into as an album. Yeah, let me know in the comments. Oh, and also I always forget to say, I always ask people to leave their top 5 songs from the video, but I feel like that doesn't really make any sense. So please leave me in the comments your top 5 David Bowie songs of all time. I'll let you know my favorite one from this video at the end. But yeah, I want to hear what are your top 5 David Bowie songs in order in the comments. What a fucking classic. I think there's something that always struck me about that song was just the uniqueness of the chord progression. I remember when we were learning it at choir, it was always like, it was like really difficult to learn because it felt like what you were singing wasn't where you expected to sing. But I feel like this is one of the earliest examples of me discovering, kind of realizing that not all songs were written within diatonic expected harmony, but actually there are so many fascinating ways, like directions that you can take things harmonically. And I'm not sure exactly what he's doing here, but there's an expectation that the resolution into the chorus, it's the middle 8 moves it from one key to another, right? And then the resolution into the chorus kind of has this super, super bright feeling because it kind of lifts out of where you expect it to be and goes somewhere higher. But the way it elegantly goes from the verse into the middle 8 with the interesting movements and then into the chorus and then back into it again is like so crazy fascinating because it's so smooth. You know, so many songs you can hear the key changes or you can hear the borrowed chords, like there it is, you know, but this one just like flows. There's something about the way that he uses the melody, the combination of the melody and the instruments and everything. It just feels natural, even though it is unexpected. It just feels completely correct. You know, it really does like show like a vision. I feel like it's kind of the thing is that like, especially the cinematic energy of the song as well. Like it really shows that he had a specific thing that he wanted to do with his music, and there was nothing that was going to stop him from achieving that. There was no kind of expected musical phrasing or expected chords, expected music production, expected image, expected structure. There was none of that he was going to actually adhere to, unless it was specifically for the purposes of telling a story, or bringing the audience on the story. Yeah, nothing was going to stop him from achieving this vision that he had for his songs, you know. That's what I'm really getting from kind of digging into it and kind of really trying to pick apart the sounds, you know. Between this and like Queen, like people must have been like, I'm Kate Bush. People at this time, people were like, what is this? This is mad. It's just so it's exciting, you know, like it's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, but her mummy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go, but her friend is nowhere to be seen now she walks through her sunken dream. The imagery is so beautiful, at the same time as it being kind of almost like unintelligible and untangible. Like, to the seat with the clearest view, she's hooked to the silver screen, but the film is a saddening bore. She's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools as they ask her to focus on. It's like a downtrodden young girl who is like been trodden on by the world, goes to see a film to maybe try and lift her spirits, and yet is just bored by it because she's seen 10 times worse in real life. You know, there's a real sense of like the horrors of real life and what it can do to a person, you know. Sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the lawman beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if we'll ever know. He's the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars? Oh, so it's a sense of like these real stories almost being like movies for aliens. Right? If there's life on Mars and there are these aliens watching what is going on with the human race, all these stories, all these people who are beating each other up and fighting each other and going to war, what would those aliens think of us? Would it be an exciting television show? Would they judge us for the way in which we behave? It's on America's tortured brow that Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow, presumably a cash cow, right? The reference to movie and cinema is clearly linked here, but also a link to like the kind of the ultimate end of capitalism being turning something beautiful into a cash cow, something innocent into something cynical. The workers are struck for fame because Lennon's on sale again. It's like the normal people trying to be famous, you know, there's like, but none of it can't actually all happen to everyone, you know. But the film is a sounding board because I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be writ again as I ask you to focus on. Sailors dancing and fighting in the dance hall. It's like, it's almost like these stories are written to distract us from the horrors of real life, you know. Watch this movie, focus on this movie, don't pay attention to what's going on in life. Focus on this movie, you know. Some of the previous songs have had like a real direct storyline to it, especially the Ziggy Stardust. This one really is very interpretive, very abstract, but it really is giving me a sense of like the shame that he feels for the modern world, the way in which we behave, the wars in which we engage in, the way in which capitalism squeezes every penny out of every last thing and reduces us to something cynical, and yet we're asked to just all focus on something else. There's a real kind of like anti-society kind of message within this song, anti-capitalism message within this song. And actually, again, he's talking about perspective. Something that really clear in Space Oddity was this idea of physical perspective, and he's taken us out to space again to make us look at ourselves. And I feel like maybe this is his whole mission, is the physical removal to space maybe being a way of getting perspective, of allowing the audience to have perspective on themselves, right? How would somebody else who's from space view you? If you were Major Tom and you went into space, how would you view the planet? This seems to be a key theme, is like turning the mirror towards the listener, making them think about themselves, gaining perspective by putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Yeah, he holds a mirror up to the audience, doesn't he? By way of the perspective of an alien or the perspective of somebody in space. You know, it's like, yeah. I'm like, whoa. It's like making my brain like fire in all sorts of amazing directions. This is how I felt when I did the Joni Mitchell reaction as well. It was just like, oh shit, oh wow, oh my god. My brain's like, it just makes your brain fire off all these amazing things because they're just so, yeah, it's really cool. Let's go to the next one. What have I got next? This is the Ashes to Ashes music video. Oh, okay. This one seems to have more of a visual thing going on in the video already. We've had a time jump here, right? I think this is 1980. Yes, this is 7 years gap. Oh my god, for FX. I love, they're like, oh, we can do this, let's do this. And that the technology kind of inspires the style of the video. It's very cool. The image is totally different now. It kind of has this like clowny kind of, oh, not this bit. He just looks very normal here. Is the constantly dilated pupil just his eye? Maybe it's just his eye. I've never heard of that before though. Clown. This is the clown guy. Honestly, imagery-wise, no idea what's going on. It's a bit mad, but I'm enjoying it. Now he's in a mental asylum. It's almost like each of these shots are like, these people are weird as well. Almost like vignettes, like different people in different circumstances, or maybe different memories in somebody's life or something. God, the effects are so funny. It's like, you are not in the sea, babes. We can see that it's like, oh my god, what is this? Yeah, you can tell he's got like budget in this one as well. It's like, there's like a big jump. Oh, I never know there was a reference to Major Tom in this. Major Tom represent in this thing. Maybe it's like ambition, a warning. Now his mother is there berating him even though he's dressed as this clown. Like, really fascinating kind of imagery, kind of jarring imagery. Again, more kind of alien imagery. A lot more to dig into in terms of the visuals of that, huh? This is 1980, so this is still pre-MTV, but this is like really, we're getting into the dawn of like conceptual music videos. You know, you've had Bohemian Rhapsody, for instance. You've had like obviously his earlier stuff. You've had like, I guess Kate Bush's early music videos potentially. And now he's really starting to experiment with the cinematics within the visuals as well as the sound, you know. I feel like I recognise the melody of it, but like I've never really sat down and listened to that song, and it's bizarre sounding. It really feels like the technology is moving on and allowing him to like really get more arty and experimental, which is kind of more of what I expected going into this reaction, you know. The earlier songs kind of have a more grounded quality, but that one sonically didn't really feel very grounded and visually didn't feel grounded. It was all very figurative. But the thing with his mum, I suppose that does bring it back down to earth, right? Like, my mum told me not to try and be like Major Tom. It's like cautionary tale, don't get ahead of yourself, don't get too big ahead maybe. Like, and then in terms of the imagery, this quite stark image of an old lady telling off like an artist, a clown. Considering everything so far has been very like abstract and very weird, to have just a standard old woman there telling you off is very jarring and kind of almost like cuts through the art of it, maybe undermines the art of it in a way. Maybe it's his way of like undercutting his own ego and not letting his ego get carried away, you know. Maybe that's the whole point of the song, is that like, if as an artist he lets himself get carried away with his own ego, he could end up like Ziggy Stardust did. And maybe like that's why he brings in the element of his mum, and it is a sense of grounding, you know. It's like, you know, listening to the perspective of others so that you can be grounded, you know. Again, more about perspective. Like, he really is playing with perspective in different ways, like singing from different perspectives, not necessarily singing about, like, it's not autobiographical, it's always about perspective, right? Interesting. Do you remember a guy that's been in such an early song? I've heard a rumor from Ground Control. Oh no, don't say it's true. Is this like almost like a sequel to Space Oddity? They've got a message from the Action Man. I'm happy. Hope you're happy too. I've loved all I've needed. Love, sordid details following. Okay. The shrieking of nothing is killing. Just pictures of That's aged badly. I'm gonna have to cut that out. Christ. In synthesis, and I ain't got no money and I ain't got no hair. Ashes to ashes, funk to funky, we know Major Tom's a junkie. Strung out in heaven's high, hitting an all-time low. So again, it's almost like where Space Oddity was glorifying Major Tom as this like a person who just loved his wife and got trapped in space and something went wrong. Now it's almost like the cynical element of it is caught up with him, and now it's like, oh, we all know that he's a junkie. We all know that he's just an egotistical guy who's been turned into a hero because he got lost in space, you know? Yeah, very interesting. I love the way he plays with cynicism in his music, you know? I don't feel like Bowie himself is a cynic, but like he really plays with a cynical perspective, you know? Maybe it's like a devil's advocate kind of thing. Time and again, I tell myself I'll stay clean tonight, but the little green wheels are following me. Oh no, not again. I'm stuck with a valuable friend. I hope you're happy. Hope you're happy too. There's something so sinister. And again, quite sinister in the visuals, like with the alien thing, with all the tubes and shit. And like those people who keep kind of like chiming in almost like a comical way, but their faces are quite dark and down. It's like quite serious, and there's the insane imagery as well. Like there's a real kind of undercurrent of like, yeah, like something darker. I never done good things. I never done bad things. I never did anything out of the blue. Want an axe to break the ice. Want to come down right now. Ashes to ashes, funk to funky. We know Major Tom's a junkie. Maybe it's like a bit of a cautionary tale about wanting fame. Maybe Major Tom represents like a famous junkie, and maybe like the perspective is like a mother telling a child not to wish for such things, you know? He says like, I never done good things, I never done bad things, like almost like he feels like he hasn't never really done anything. He is of the perspective like, I want to, even if I'm going to make mistakes, I want to still have my own choice to do what I want to do and like go for it and go a bit mad and whatever. But like his mother's telling him to not become what Major Tom became, you know? It does feel like a cautionary thing against fame, which again ties into the themes of like capitalism, the way we look at famous people, the perspective of famous people, our connection, these little human things and how we can step out of that and analyze it, you know, through his music. It's pretty magical. It kind of also feels like it's just so high level that like, how does he do it? You know, how does he make you think all these things with all these abstract things and abstract sounds and abstract visuals? He makes you think all these things that are very human. It's really just like quite magical, because it's very difficult to connect the dots between like how he actually manages to inspire that within you, you know? I'm really enjoying myself. I'm understanding why all these years people have gone on about how he is like a genius. I don't think I've ever really understood why people have said that, you know? And I feel like I'm starting to get it, you know? Right, let's go on to the next one. This is Modern Love. Oh, it's a live show. Very much within the 80s now, aren't we?
Get things done.
God, there's such an iconic riff, isn't it? This one's much more kind of central pop sounding, isn't it, you know? His image in this is a little bit more, not quite as out there, you know? Yellow suit, bow tie. Never gonna fall for modern love. What does that mean? I love the kind of almost like retro throwback of this song. It almost kind of feels like an American, not quite Motown-y, but kind of like bluesy American rock and roll vibes, you know? All those like watery effects are very strange. I love the kind of watching 80s music videos and seeing all the modern effects, like, oh, and it's turning into balloons. That's quite clever. So funny, because this song is actually quite different to the others. He was really not like afraid to really play with his sound, you know, it seems. This one, yeah, to kind of like have this kind of retro throwback, even with the image and everything, it takes it back to something quite like referential. Compared to like his earlier stuff, which kind of had much more of a rock, psychedelic, experimental energy to it. This one's quite straightforward, really. Maybe the label were like, you need a hit. No, let's be honest. We know that everything was massive. Like, it's amazing time for music, because like, especially in Britain as well. Yeah, I love it. Like nowadays, you can kind of like, most number ones you hear feel like, oh yeah, obviously. Like they're kind of written to be hits, and they sound like hits and they perform like hits. It's all a bit expected in terms of charts, you know. Obviously there's so much interesting stuff when you look for it, or when you guys tell me to listen to it. But like back in like the 70s, you had people like David Bowie like doing like, you know, stuff like Life on Mars with really kind of interesting harmonic stuff, you know. You had people like Kate Bush doing stuff like Wuthering Heights, and Queen doing Bohemian Rhapsody, and all these songs going to fucking number one. And it's like, you can't imagine anything so experimental going to number one now. It was just like such a time for people who were just really open listeners, you know, in general. Like, as in everybody had a much more open ear and was much more kind of willing to be surprised, willing to listen to something strange. Whereas now it feels like it's almost really difficult to even get people to listen to something if it's not just comfort listening, you know? And maybe that's to do with the pure amount of music that is out there, and the access to music and how we listen to music is so different. The convenience of music when it comes to central chart music is taken a lot of the experimentation out of it. And also just the industry, you know, driven by safe investment. These record labels have made chart music sound more and more generic because it's a safe investment of their money, you know. Whereas it feels like they were much more willing to take a risk back at this time, you know, for the pure love of the music, you know. But yeah, don't get me wrong, obviously, I do this whole channel and I love pop music and I listen to a lot of pop music, and I really love music that has comforting energy to it. But for me, the best music has that balance. And I feel like David Bowie really does actually have that balance between the comfort, recognizability, and the stuff that pushes it a bit further. But yeah, it's just crazy that it was so central to culture. Whereas now that kind of stuff is a bit more like the kind of stuff that we look for, the kind of stuff we listen to that's a little bit more fringe, you know. Yeah, different times, hey. Anyway, Modern Love. Yeah, there wasn't as much to dissect in the music video as I thought, but it is very interesting that he's gone from something like Ashes to Ashes, which is very... How many years? Modern Love was 3 years after Ashes to Ashes, and he's gone to something that feels much more retro and much more kind of central, much more traditional, much more conservative, which is very strange. Like, I really wasn't expecting that turn. It might be that maybe the reaction to his more arty stuff was starting to wane, maybe, and maybe like public opinion was starting to want something a bit more straightforward from him, or maybe his label were like, we need something a bit more surefire. So maybe it's a reaction to going super arty and then going the opposite way and going something a bit more comfort listening, you know. I know when I go out, know when to stay in, get things done. I catch the paper boy, but things don't really change. I'm standing in the wind, but I never wave bye-bye, but I try. Never gonna fall for modern love. Walks beside me, walks on by, gets me to the church on time. Terrifies me, makes me party, puts my trust in God and man. No confessions, no religion, don't believe in modern love. Maybe it's like the story of a traditional man. You know, he's like, I'm not going to fall through these modern changes. I'm just going to go to the tradition. And the song sounds traditional in that way too. I guess that's for me what that song is maybe a commentary on a conservative character. Maybe he's inhabiting this more conservative character and then taking the music there too into a more retro kind of 50s, 60s vibe. Yeah, very interesting. Like, unexpected twist. But I suppose like all artists go into lots of different directions. And after, you know, he's been doing the kind of, you know, spacey Ziggy Stardust vibe at this point for like over a decade. Maybe it's like him really trying to go the opposite way and explore a completely different part of his artistry, you know? Okay, next one. Now this is a departure. This is Magic Dance from Labyrinth. I thought it was quite important to actually include a song from Labyrinth because, I mean, my boyfriend loves the movie. He hasn't made me watch it yet, but I feel like it's coming. We just watched Beetlejuice recently. You can get a sense of like the kind of stuff he likes. I know a lot of people who are a fan of the movie Labyrinth, and it's such a strange thing for him to go into a movie with puppets and write songs for it and stuff. It's like, it is very weird to me. So I thought this has to be a part of the reaction. So this is Magic Dance. Babies, just what I wanted to see on my Monday afternoon. Yeah, so this is still Jim Henson stuff, right? Which, to be fair, I love the Muppets. And then there's Bowie, sat on a throne with the most 80s hair you've ever seen in your life.
You remind me of the babe. Babe with high voodoo. You do.
What? A goblin babe. You know when some things are just so 80s? it's just so 80s in every way. Dancey vibe to it. It's kind of a shuffly thing.
Magic spell to use. Slime and snail.
This reminds me so much of like Muppet Treasure Island.
Dance, magic dance.
Oh, funny.
In 9 hours and 23, you'll be mine. I saw
I can't. This is very weird. I have no idea what this is supposed to be about. God, the puppets are really fucking creepy. I love his commitment. Like, to be honest, like, this is a really balmy idea, and he's totally committed as an actor. I really have respect for people who can actually do this kind of thing. Oh my God, I control the fucking baby, and then be so committed to the premise. It's like, yeah, it is really, really cool. Even if it's not like my cup of tea. Yeah, it's not quite my cup of tea, but mad. But I kind of love it. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely adore the Muppet movies, and there's so much in the DNA of the movement of the way they come across the screen and stuff. Reminds me so much of the 90s Muppet movies. Yeah, mad. I couldn't tell you what it was about. Should we look at the lyrics and see? You remind me of a babe. What babe? Babe with the power of voodoo. Who do you do? It's like very brilliant, rhythmic, kind of musically kind of vibe. I saw my baby crying hard as a babe could cry. What could I do? My baby's love had gone. Dance, magic, dance. Put that baby spell on me. Wait, this has changed it. This says, put that magic jump on me, slap the baby, make him free. Well, it definitely said make him pee. What I was going to say is that, like, it's almost like baby is sick and they're trying to make the baby better, but what they realize is the baby makes them better, right? That's what I'm getting, is that, like, it's like the joy of having a child, you know, the freedom and the frivolousness of youth, embracing that as an adult, and about how a baby can actually help you embrace that as an adult, and how this movie seems to be embracing things that could be considered fantastical or childish as an adult, you know? Maybe that's the idea, this exploration of childhood, and how maybe we shouldn't let go of some of those elements of like fantasy and imagination as adults, you know? I feel that's what's the vibe of the whole thing's giving me, you know? How can we fix this baby? We don't need to fix the baby is perfect, you know? That's kind of what I'm getting from it. I could be totally wrong, because this is a bit bonkers. Oh, love it. So fun. So mad. Yeah, and I do love the idea that, like, you know, as, like, there's something that I've embraced as an adult is that, and it took me a while. It took me going to Japan, actually. Going to Japan really changed my perspective of what I could enjoy as an adult. Like, I love cute shit. I love Pokemon. I love stuff that could be considered childish, you know, but there came a point in my life, especially when I was in Japan, where I just kind of thought, who gives a fuck? I'm just going to embrace these things because I love these things, you know, like, and it's about, and actually maybe I feel like I'm a more well-rounded person because I've embraced that side of my inner child or whatever, you know, and that really seems to be the vibe within that song, maybe the movie, I guess. Very cool. Okay, before we go into the final song, this is a shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much, everybody on Patreon who supports me month in, month out, even when I'm stressed and freaking out and trying to get my back's broken and I'm moving house and I'm doing all these things. You guys are still there supporting me and still looking forward to what I have to offer you, and I can't thank you enough. All their names are on stream right now. If you want to join the Patreon, you can get access to a whole bunch of things. First, you get to watch all my videos unedited, so you can watch the whole thing as I react, so there's no cuts. Also, you get access to a whole bunch of exclusive content, including all the requested stuff. So if you go into the upper tiers, you can actually request reactions from me, and those videos go out to everybody. So there's a number of bonus videos every single month. You also get the extended version and video version of my podcast too. So yeah, lots of fun stuff, and there's a lovely little community of people over there. Like, honestly, they're like, when I put out a message saying I'd hurt my back on the Patreon, like, so many of them left absolutely lovely comments saying, oh God, I hope you get better soon. They were giving me movie recommendations to watch over the weekend. They were giving me song recommendations so that I could, like, recover and stuff. It was so genuine and so lovely, like, the community that's on there. So yeah, if you want to join in, head over to Patreon. There are a number of different ways to get involved. Cool. Okay, the last one is of jumping forward in time, like 30 years. This is Lazarus, the context of which is that he wrote this album as he was dying, right? And then the album came out, like, and then he died 2 days later. And this music video was like part of that rollout. And it, you know, obviously we know about the story of Lazarus, a man rising from being paralyzed, like rising from the dead kind of thing. So yeah, that's the context I know. But I haven't seen the music video or heard the song. So I'm enjoying that guitar with the drums. It's got kind of a dark rock energy. It's really nice. Really smooth. Oh God, that imagery is quite terrifying.
Up here, I'm in heaven.
Oh, it's giving me chills to hear the age in his voice.
Knows me now.
Everybody knows me now. There's someone hiding under his bed. I suppose it could be seen as a deathbed, right? I'm sure that's what he was thinking in terms of the imagery.
Got to lose.
Got nothing left to lose. Imagine knowing that you're dying and to turn that into such a unique piece of art is just like beyond, isn't it? It's beyond words, really. And so moving.
Hate that just like me.
It's almost like he's trying to get up, like there's a kind of movement that kind of feels a bit alien in him. Almost like he's maybe floating.
Got to New York.
Coming out the closet. I know he never actually like confirmed any kind of sexuality or anything. But he literally just came out the closet, like, come on.
I was looking for your ass.
What's the representation of the bandage of the eyes with the things on it? Is it almost like a third eye kind of thing? Or maybe it's almost like a true sight beyond real sight, true understanding. Wow. God, this is really giving me chills. The power in this song is just like so palpable.
I'll be free. Ain't that just like me?
Wow. God, the way the silhouette of his teeth against the window, God, that's just like so like, oh God, the imagery is just like really overwhelmingly raw, jagged. Wow, fucking hell. That's just like, just the power in that was just like, really just, I don't know, like so moving. Like, I think knowing the context really does like add something to it, right? I just find it so insane and so beautiful that he turned his death into art, you know? Like, is there anything more human than that? You know, it's just like, and the imagery within that video is so jagged and dark and so like kind of scary, really, but there is a kind of sense of hope in the way that he's performing it. He's talking about freedom. Maybe there's a sense of like the pain that he's in will be over once he dies. And so although it's a real conflicted feeling, there is a sense of hope within it, you know? And maybe that's why the imagery is quite so jagged and dark, but has elements of like rising out, coming out, moving out, you know? It's to represent that although things are horrible, there is maybe this light at the end of the tunnel for him, this freedom that he's ready for, maybe. Yeah. It's so powerful. It's just so powerful. Like, it's really difficult to put into words, like how, when something moves you in that kind of like dark kind of way. It's not like when something is really sad and you cry. It's like much more kind of complex and kind of intricate human feelings, everything at once type thing, you know? Yeah. Look up here, I'm in heaven. I got scars that can't be seen. I've got drama can't be stolen. Everybody knows me now. Look up here, man, I'm in danger. I've got nothing left to lose. I'm so high it makes my brain whirl. Dropped my cell phone down below. Ain't that just like me? By the time I got to New York, I was living like a king. There I'd used up all my money. I was looking for your ass. This way or no way. You know I'll be free. Just like that bluebird. Now ain't that just like me? Yeah, that freedom of the bird, you know, it's like, it gives me like this feeling of an old man looking back at his life, looking at how things have changed, but how the central ain't that just like me. There's a sense of his personality, who he is kind of indelible throughout his entire life. As a young man and as an old man on his deathbed, he still is that central person, you know? And there's something so like powerful about like looking back and like assessing your sense of self at the end of your life and kind of like seeing that actually there's a real strength and character there. And maybe that's the hope, that he's left quite an indelible mark on the world as he dies. And maybe that's his, you know, his dropping his cell phone down to the planet below, looking in heaven, everybody knows me, you know. But it's interesting because like everybody knows me, but nobody really knows him. And like he is really a mystery. Like you can piece together who he is through what he puts out in his art, but like the truth of who he is a complete mystery to everybody, and yet everybody knows him. And so there's a real kind of idea of like dissecting a sense of self when everybody thinks they know you, but nobody really does. And maybe like the Ain't That Just Like Me is like, this is what people think of who I am. And maybe it's a cynical thing, like Ain't That Just Like Me, but actually only I know who I actually am, you know? There's a power in that. Yeah, there's a real power in the song, you know? And maybe the idea of it being Lazarus, somebody rising from being paralyzed, is the sense of freedom. But yeah, so it really is giving me all these things, like an assessment of self, an assessment of your life, an assessment of like the freedom of death, you know, which is just like so incredibly moving and powerful given the context, you know. I have to listen to the whole album. I mean, it's right there. I have to listen to the whole album at some point. Let me know if you want me to react or whether I should just listen to it. Yeah. I really feel like I kind of now, having studied it a little bit, studied these 8 songs, looked at the videos from the beginning to the end, truly, I really get the sense of an artist who is so good at giving you just enough to let your imagination run wild. Even in that last song, like he doesn't spell it out for you. He lets your imagination run wild. I feel like that's what's happened to me today, is that my imagination has run wild and I've pieced together all these different things. It could be completely like different from what somebody else would take from this song. But the point is that he sets it up and allows you, the listener, to interpret what you want from it. And maybe in that way, teaches us something about ourselves, you know. Maybe when I see your comments, it'll be totally different. It will teach me something about where my mind goes, what my priorities are, like what I think about society, what I think about life and death, you know. And if that is something so incredibly magical that somebody can set that up for you and not just tell it to you, you know. And on top of that, like truly unique, but unique and artistic in a way that is accessible. You know, I think that's I've always had this idea that David Bowie stuff's a bit inaccessible. And I think that's probably the reason I never really jumped in, because of like hearing the weird lyrics of Life on Mars, or because of like seeing the images and whatever and feeling a bit alienated. But when you actually sit down and listen, you realize that there's so much humanity in everything that he's doing, you know, and so many points of reference that you can attach to as a listener, you know, whether it's an acoustic guitar or a rock guitar solo, recognizable elements, mixed in with artistic elements. So it's almost like high level art, but one that doesn't leave the listener behind and allows every man to be on board with the high level art and to explore art, you know. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest learning for me today is that, yeah, it's not this kind of aloof thing. There is a real groundedness in everything that he does, despite all of the aloof stuff, whether it's connection to the mother, or whether it's the connection to, the instruments, or whether it's the connection to humanity and society and perspective and storytelling and, you know, childhood. Despite his high kind of alienness, there's something so human about everything I've heard today, you know? Yeah, amazing. So phenomenal. Let me know what I need to react to next. I'll probably do some full albums, so let me know what the full albums I need to react to are. Yeah, also make sure to let me know what your top 5 David Bowie songs of all time are in the comments. I want to know, which is probably not a very nice thing to ask, but I want you to do it. I want you to give your best shot. What's my favourite song from today? I think for me, the best discovery for me today is Moonage Daydream. There's just something about the sound of that one that really just had me just fascinated, you know. I feel like I could listen to it over and over and over again. Yeah, I'm going to say Moonage Daydream was my favourite today. Thanks for joining me, guys. If you want to check out my Kate Bush discovery video, it's here. If you want to check out my Joni Mitchell discovery video, it's here.